Hello, lovely people. Once again, thank you for stopping by our channel. My name is Dr. Ehwi, and I'm a research associate at Cambridge University. I might ask the question, should I do a postdoc after my PhD or go directly into lectureship?
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive.
I would like to share some experience and also some things you should consider and think about before you start your postdoctoral research or becoming a research associate. The first thing that I want to mention, it's about your contract. So a postdoctoral researcher, primarily you are hired to conduct research. But you and I would appreciate that what makes you a postdoctoral researcher is because you have completed a doctoral research, a significant piece of research, which you have spent at least 3 years to complete. Now, the pathway to a postdoctoral researcher, of course, varies for different people. But for most of us, you go into a postdoctoral research project where you would have to work on a project. If you are fortunate enough to find a project which is completely similar to what you studied or what you researched for your doctoral research, then that's bingo, that's fantastic. That means that you can continue with the work that you have been doing for your doctoral research in terms of publishing your research findings and related activities. But for the most part of the experience, or for most people, you are likely to become a postdoctoral researcher on someone else's project. Now, of course, you would appreciate that the doctoral research equips you, makes you more competent in conducting research. So it need not necessarily be the specific subject that you investigated for your doctoral research, but then you'd agree that you have spent a significant amount of years on your own doctoral research, a piece of work that you are passionate about, a piece of work that you really committed resources to. So how do you then balance between your doctoral research and your new role as a research associate in case you are on a project that is not directly related or that doesn't just build up on what you have done? And that is where I am coming from in terms of the advice I would like to give. First of all, in your contract, before you sign, before you commit anything, ask your line manager that what is the arrangement in terms of advancing your own research, the doctoral research that you have been involved in. This is important because sometimes you can assume that, okay, you can continue with your research alongside your new role as a postdoctoral researcher, doing something that may not be completely at variance with what you studied for your doctoral research, but they may not be the same. So it is very important to clarify, seek clarification, and if possible, let it be in writing, the extent to which you can work on that. Some line managers are generous enough and understand the need for you to be able to continue with your research or churn out publications for your research, and therefore some can agree that maybe once in a week or maybe for a certain number of hours in every week, you can commit that time to your own doctoral research. Others will not do that, and therefore you need to find ways to get publications from your doctoral research out. That is very important. I can't overemphasize that. The next thing that I would want to talk about in terms of before you start is to also think about teaching. All these are things that would either be specified in the contract or it might not be mentioned. Of course, the postdoctoral research experience or stage is a transitional stage. I mean, it's you transitioning from being a doctoral researcher and an established academic. So you would need teaching experience as part of your preparation to take up a permanent lectureship position or a permanent position in a a higher educational institution where teaching and research forms part of the core activities. So it's important you find out to what extent are you allowed to do teaching. Some contracts will specify that you are allowed to do a specified amount of hours. Some will specify the amount of hours. They might say just limited teaching. It is important to clarify. It is important to find out to what extent can you do teaching. And you always have to think about the next phase after the postdoctoral researcher. If you want to assume a lectureship position, obviously you will need to demonstrate some teaching. I'm saying this because not all line managers would give you that opportunity, and you need to be able to make a case or discuss that in light of your longer career development, it is important if you gain some teaching experience, whether within the faculty you are based or in a related faculty where you feel that you can contribute towards a limited amount of teaching. So the third one I want to mention relates to career development, but in the area of professional certification. So some of us, by reason of the course we studied and where it falls within, or where the program sits within the professional space, there is an opportunity for you to get some professional accreditation. A common one is, for example, teaching certification, whether it's a PG cert or it's a fellow of higher educational academy or whatever it is. Yes, on this one too, it is important that you bring the matter up in your preliminary meeting with your line manager. Find out what is the arrangement, what is the support in terms of you pursuing qualifications that would contribute towards your professional appeal in terms of your career. It is not helpful to assume that you can subscribe, join, or take courses that are intended to lead to an award of a professional certificate. I believe that it is important to discuss that with your line manager. The fourth one I want to talk about has to do with authorships regarding publications. So you would be producing academic output, you will be presenting, you will be producing conference papers, policy papers, different kinds of outputs. Now, in some department or in some places, there's a pretty much agreed standard where whoever makes a significant contribution becomes the principal author of whatever output it is. In other places, that is not quite the case. So you need to find out what is the arrangement like. If you write a journal paper and you contribute significantly than anyone else, does that mean you get the right to become the principal author or the main author? Under what circumstances wouldn't you be named as the main author? It is important, one, for you to get the right credit for the work that you have done, but also increasingly thinking in terms of the future. When you apply for a job and recruiters are looking at your competency and your ability to lead your research projects, they would more likely look at how many publications are you a lead author, or have you been named as a lead author on those publications. So it is very important that you bring that matter up and then you seek clarification regarding authorships in terms of whenever an output is produced which you are a part of, where would the authorship lie and how would this be negotiated. The fifth thing I want to touch on relates to applying for grants or writing funding applications. As a postdoctoral researcher, you would be expected to, your contract might specify that you are expected to contribute towards writing grant applications. Here it's important you find out what kinds of grants are you allowed to apply for. And when you contribute towards grant application, just like authorships, where would you be? Would you be a named co-investigator on the grants, or the grants would be in the name of your line manager and then you would still be employed as a postdoctoral researcher on the grant. So it's important you clarify that. Seek clarification regarding what types of grants. So for example, how would you come across, or would your line manager entertain the idea of you applying for smaller grants to do research that are related to some of the things you did for your PhD, right? So let's say you want to organize a seminar or a workshop, or you want to travel. Can you put in grant applications for these smaller research projects, which may not be directly what you are working on as a postdoctoral researcher? It is very important to seek clarification on where funding is, and also seek clarification on whether you are expected to contribute towards funding to fund your posts, or you are expected to contribute towards developing grant application. Oftentimes these two are not clearly explicated, so it's important you seek clarification regarding what you can do when it comes to funding application and what you cannot do. So yeah, I believe that these are some of the things that I have personally learned from my experience as a postdoctoral researcher in Cambridge, which I believe that if you are a new postdoctoral researcher taking up a postdoc position in any university, it is important that you have these conversations and you seek the relevant information to help you enjoy your experience. I know one might ask the question, should I do a postdoc after my PhD or go directly into lectureship? I know there are few cases. There are instances where people have been able to make that significant jump, but increasingly it's becoming the norm for people to have postdoctoral researchers, and even for recruiters to consider whether you've had a postdoctoral research experience before assuming a lectureship position, because they are aware that the postdoctoral phase allows you to build a certain research profile, which then you can draw upon in terms of you presenting yourself as a candidate for a lectureship. So that is my response. If you get opportunity to do a postdoc, of course, go for it. If not, if you have a permanent position after your doctoral research, that is all the more fantastic. I hope that you would have a wonderful experience in your own journey. I would be really grateful and I'm really thankful that I had the opportunity to do a postdoctoral researcher, which I can then build upon, and I can demonstrate that I've built some research profile which I can use going forward in terms of my career. So yeah, that's a wrap for today. Thank you very much for stopping by our channel. If you have any more questions about the postdoctoral experience, whether specifically relating to Cambridge or any other place, leave your comments in the comment section and I'll gladly read it and then respond to you. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, we would advise you consider subscribing, because when you subscribe and then you click that notification bell, we get to know what people are really interested in, and we can then design more content around that and share them with you. So thank you very much.